So Triplewell is one of these businesses where if you're in the e-commerce space, you've heard multiple times. Now, they were founded in May 2021. I personally started using them in December 2021 and have been using them since for pretty much every single Shopify brand we handle at paidadvertising.com. With that said, in 2022, they raised about $27.7 million. In 2023 so far, they raised another $10 million. Shopify has been speaking about them and they're just kind of everywhere in the e-commerce space. And I've also heard the flip side, where a lot of people are now saying, there's no real use for it anymore. Facebook's attribution is better once again. You don't need to use it. Like, save your money, put it into something else. And I want to show you what are the use cases I still make to this day with my marketing agency. Keep in mind, again, at paidadvertising.com, we handle about 15 or so brands at any given point. We spend roughly $3 million a year on ads. And I can tell you that Triplewell has been very useful on a day-to-day basis, especially from an omni-channel perspective. So stay tuned to learn more. And hey, if you're new to the channel, my name is Justin. I'm the founder at paidadvertising.com, an e-commerce marketing agency specializing in elevating thriving brands by simplifying e-commerce growth. So as of right now, I'm on one of our accounts on Triplewell, and there's a couple of things that I think are interesting from a brand and agency perspective that I may or may not have yet talked about on this channel. So one of the first things is the fact that we now can use total impact attribution model for any customer that we handle omni-channel for. So I'm going to give you an example, right? If you are, would you be a brand or an agency? But let's just say you're a brand for the sake of this video and this example. You're hiring an agency to run your Facebook and Google ads. So they handle both, right? And the example is going to get worse the more platforms a single entity handles that is not you internally. So let's say an agency comes in, they handle Facebook and Google ads, and they take a percentage of both, okay? As we do as an agency. They would come in here and then they would see, okay, so as an example, we handle all of these ad platforms. If I look the last 30 days, we spent £80,000 on ads. We brought £87,000 back, almost a 10x ROAS. Great. If I do, let's say the math, I take 10% roughly of that. Give or take, I take about £8,000 as a fee as an agency. Okay, great. You pay us £8,000, right? But you can see here that there is a 10% overlap between Facebook and Google. Also, I can guarantee you that if we look at this number as an example, 838 purchases, there's a very high likelihood that this number is higher than what is on Shopify as an example. More specifically, if I move away from ads and I go to all right there and I still stay in triple attribution plus views, now I find myself with 3,047 purchases with right here £334,000 in conversions. But would you look at that? If I looked at my summary and I look at how many sales are on Shopify, it's £155,000. So going back to the pixel right here, going back to all and sticking to triple attribution plus views, my attribution, total attribution of every platform together is much higher than the sales I have on Shopify. In fact, it's more than twice as high in what I have on Shopify. So in other words, I'm saying you're overpaying your agencies. Whereas if I switch as an example here to total impact, let's let it load for a second. Usually it's going to be much closer. Most of the time it's going to be exactly bang on what is on Shopify. Sometimes for some reasons, if there's like more returns or there's a slight discrepancy right here. So there's a discrepancy in about £10,000, but nowhere near the 2 point something X that we had earlier. And if I go back only to the ads as an example, and again, keep in mind earlier we were at 9.88. Well, now we are at 4.79, which is again pretty much half of what was there before. Same ad spend, half the conversions value, which now means that as an agency, instead of getting about £8,000 or so, we get, and let's just do the quick math, £40,000 roughly minus £8,000, we get about, it's £34,000 total times 10%. 3.4K. We're walking away with 3.4K as an agency over 8K, but it's much more fair to the customer because again, we're handling omni-channel. And that is something I said at Triplewell can really help you discern between all of your ad channels is pattern. I'm going to show you that through customer journey also right here. Which if I look as an example through Facebook, for that client specifically, the most likely to take path is straight to purchase. If somebody finds you on Facebook, they take straight to a purchase. If I look at Google, the first likely path is straight to a purchase, but a pretty significant portion will also go to a Klaviyo email and then back to a purchase. Let me switch client for a second. I want you to look at this other client that we have right here, which this one is much different. A very big portion, in fact, a bigger portion goes from Facebook to a Google ad instead of going from Facebook to a Shopify ad. We noticed that as soon as we turned on our Facebook ads, the spend on Google ads went up by about 55 to 100%. So in other words, the more we spend on Facebook, the more Google starts spending because there's more clicks that start happening on Google. And therefore, it just goes to show that Google ROAS shut up every time we increase spend on Facebook. And that leads me to one of my favorite features, which is called Lighthouse, which helps us when it comes to reporting with the customer, but also show these strong correlations happening between our different ad channels. So looking at here as an example. So basically this correlation factor ranges from 0 to 1 and 0 to -1. So -1 would mean that in that case, as an example, I am benchmarking Facebook ad spend to Google Ads ROAS. If it was -1, it means directly proportionate. If I increase Facebook ad spend by, let's say, 10%, my Google ROAS decreases by roughly 10%. So when I increase one, the other one decreases proportionally. So that's when it's in the negative. Whereas if it's in the positive, it's that when I increase one, the other one increases with a certain proportion. So right here, the coefficient is 0.73, which is incredibly strong. So what it means for that client is that the more I increase Facebook ad spend, the more Google Ads ROAS increases. In that case, it's by 0.73, which is again a very strong factor of that. And this is especially good when again running omni-channel, because right now we're actually doing a test with one of our customers, which we paused Facebook ads completely just to see what would happen with the brand within a couple of weeks. We're already seeing a net profit decrease by about 55% in the last week or so. But it's good to see, like, when you use Lighthouse, like I'm showing you right now on screen, it helps you make some of these decisions. Notice that, hey, okay, like there might not be a lot of sales coming from Google in itself. Like Google's might not be acquiring a lot of customers, but it's really helping Facebook get much better result, which overall for my brand is a very good thing. So the way I use Triple Wall is on a day-to-day basis, I'll always use triple attribution plus views to dictate how a single channel performance is working, essentially, whether or not that channel is worth investing money into, which you can clearly see that out of this strategy, which we actually ditched after a while, Pinterest doesn't necessarily seem to be great. If I switch to total impact, it's not really there. Even if I look at customer journey, it's not really a strong one. It's just kind of there. People see it as part of the journey, but it doesn't have any crazy impact in the purchase that a customer would make. Whereas Google and Facebook have a much stronger one. You can also see that TikTok from an organic perspective is also doing pretty good for this brand. So I look at triple attribution plus views, or just triple attribution, right? Because triple attribution plus views only works for Facebook, but triple attribution is basically a click-based attribution model that works for any other ad platform. That's what I use to make ad decisions on a day-to-day basis. Total impact, I look at it on a bit of a broader basis. So 7 days or a month, and especially when billing customers, will look at total impact. Most of the time, unless we're actually handling one channel, or unless the spend is so low on 2 channels that it doesn't really make sense even to go into total impact. But that's about that overall. So that's how I use these different attribution models. Now, one of the second things I'll look at quite often is also post-purchase surveys answers, which dictates also from both an organic and paid perspective, kind of combined together, what channel overall is best for my brand, right? So in that case, Instagram is clearly the winner. It's about half of the entire audience says they've came through Instagram, which again could be Facebook. As you can see, actually Facebook is barely there. It's about 5% of the total responses. So you can see Instagram is clearly blowing everything out of the water. Email is a close second. A lot of people say none of the above, probably because they just want to skip it. Because again, let's be honest, a lot of people don't come from none of the above. They either came from Google, they came from somewhere, right? Like it's very rare that people do a direct search on the websites. TikTok is also a close one. So again, it helps me allocate budget to specific channels. Lastly, if I go back to home, one of the core things, if I go back all the way to the top, that I look at is blended ROAS. That helps me dictate whether or not my brand can actually allocate more money towards ads in general, typically speaking. And you'll hear people say some things very differently. I think the consensus is around 3. I hear a few people saying, hey, blended should be at least above 2. So it really is going to depend what people are going to tell you. But usually as a rule of thumb, try and keep blended at least above 2 or 3x. Which means total sales divided by total marketing spend. If you're an e-commerce brand, therefore you are somewhat marketing heavy, you rely on paid channels, you rely on social media in order to get sales, you have to spend on marketing, right? Your blended has to be at a certain level. That's what sustains your brand. There's pretty much no other way for you to get sales, especially when you first get started. At some point, you'll start having word of mouth. At some point, your organic is going to become much stronger, which therefore is going to positively impact your blended. But what this means overall is that for a starting brand, you should be at least 2 to 3x blended when first starting to make sure you are in the green. That brand, as you can see, is above 13 points 39, which is great. This is where it also depends on what you want to start doing in terms of what are your objectives as a brand, right? If your objective is aggressive growth, then I would tell that brand, get yourself much closer to 3 and let's just really do a crazy push. They have a very, very, very healthy new customer CPA essentially right here at 12.9 pounds, which is honestly, again, it's crazy healthy. It's rare that I have clients that have something like this. You know, net margins are, again, super good. As you can see, their net profit is through the roof. So that brand is very, very healthy overall. And their goal right now is not to scale like crazy. It's more to consolidate and be profitable. Now, going back into the pixel right here, some of the things I like to see also is, again, new customers, right? Where do I acquire most of my new customers? What is my cost for these new customers? You wouldn't know that straight from the app platforms. Google doesn't tell you. Facebook doesn't tell you either. You can tell me, oh, I've excluded my past purchases or I've excluded all my followers. It's not foolproof. Like, something will happen. Some people, maybe it's 10%, maybe 20%, will go through the cracks and still get targeted by these ads no matter the exclusions that you've set up. So it's good to really see here how much is actually new customers, which you can see it right here, right? 3.69 ROAS for new customer ROAS only on Facebook out of a 7.9 overall, which is about 50% new customers. Google's at 9.7, which 5.5 being new customers, so more than half of Google is new customers. Pinterest right here, 1.86, be 1.7 right here, which is pretty much all new customers coming from Pinterest. So again, it's very good to see where you would want to allocate your money in terms of new customers, but also same thing from a new customer CPA, right? Which in other words, people call it CAC. What is my CAC? Well, you wouldn't know what your CAC is if you're using your app platforms. If you wanted to calculate your CAC, you'd have to do a manual calculation every month, looking at your total Shopify store versus the percentage of your new customers. From there, you calculate how much of that total order value you've had on your store is coming from new customers, divided by essentially the total amount of orders you have and you know are coming from new customers. And at this point, you actually find yourself with your CAC. But this is much healthier or simpler for you to calculate CAC also in that perspective, which you know what it is per channel. So Triple for me is more of a decision-making platform. It helps me know where to allocate my money on a channel day-to-day basis. So more specifically, what ads and ad sets to allocate more money towards. Second, it helps you holistically learn what channels are interacting with other channels. So it helps you see, again, as they call it, the e-commerce ecosystem. So you can see how all of your ecosystems operating, basically what are the pieces interacting together? What is your average customer journey? I've also seen customers having 100 and something days journey on Triple, right? Through the customer journey. Like, let's say this client on average, crazy when you look at it, crazy purchase cycle. If somebody sees a Facebook ad, it's going to take them on average about 30 days before making a purchase. And then from there, and a lot of people go to and you can see the numbers at the bottom, right? 1,238 purchased on basically the first touch point, 998 on that second touch point, 143 on a third touch point, 50 on a fourth, 28 on a fifth, and then 18 on a sixth, essentially, which is basically where Shopify kind of stops at this point, or not Shopify, but Triple, I should say. But you can see how big of a percentage and how long the sales cycle is. Like in this case, if you go all the way to stage 4, there's 30 days between stage 1 and stage 2. Then there's 23. So now we're at 53 days. Then you add 55 days. We're at basically 100 days. So it's almost basically like 4 months before somebody sees the first ad and actually decides to pull the trigger and make a purchase. So again, going back to how I use Triple, well, I use it to learn how my channels interact together and learn also the long-term impacts that a channel has on my business, which you can see here. Facebook is one of the leading kind of traffic into my funnel and pushes people upwards of 100 days into the funnel, which shows me, hey, Facebook is really at the top, pushing people through the entire funnel. In that case, then it helps you save on agency fees once again, because in that case, that client basically saved about £4,000 in a month in commissions he would have had to pay us. And what he's paying, let's say £600 a month or so on Triple fees. It's a pretty good bargain if you ask me. So my take for you, if you're using, as soon as you're using more than one marketing channel, would that be Facebook and Klaviyo? Would that be Facebook and Google? Would that be Facebook and organic, right? As soon as you're using a combination of more than one channel, would it be paid or organic? Would it be paid or influencers? Whatever that is, you absolutely need to get your hands on something like Triple to see the real impact of how each of these channels truly interact together. By the way, I'll have as a first link in the description down below our code, which gives you 15% off your subscription at Triple. It's Wizzo15. If you use that at checkout, you get 15% off your subscription for, I believe, to what is up to 12 months. And hey, if you're watching this video, you are a Shopify brand and making above $25,000 a month, click the link down below and book in a call to speak with our team. We'd love to help you out and crush it through the use of paid advertising. So on that note, I'm going to wish you guys an amazing day. Talk to you in the next video. Peace.